On a stormy afternoon in August 1966, a young boy flying a kite on Vintim Hill in Niterói, Brazil, stumbled upon a sight that would haunt him forever. Two men, dressed in neat, formal suits and wearing handmade lead masks over their eyes, lay dead in the tall grass. Beside them was a water bottle and a cryptic notebook with instructions that defy explanation. The boy ran for help, gasping for breath, his heart hammering against his ribs. The police struggled up the steep, slippery slopes of Vintim Hill the following morning, battling the thick underbrush. What they found on that desolate, windswept hillside was not a typical crime scene, but a bizarre, carefully staged tableau. The two lifeless bodies belonged to Manuel Pereira de Cruz and Miguel Jose Viana, two young electronic technicians from a town miles away. They lay side by side, perfectly flat on their backs, hands resting peacefully by their sides in an almost ritualistic posture. Curiously, there were absolutely no signs of struggle or any physical distress. No blood stained the muddy soil, and no marks of violence or struggle marred their clean bodies. They looked as if they had simply laid down to take a peaceful nap under the open, cloudy sky. But they were dressed in heavy, pristine, brand-new raincoats over their formal, tailored suits. And then there were the bizarre masks. Resting on their faces were crude, handmade protective eye masks cut from sheets of lead, the exact kind used to shield against lethal radiation. Why would two ordinary, intelligent technicians climb a steep, muddy hill during a raging storm, wearing heavy coats and lead masks? The puzzled investigators searched their pockets, desperately hoping for a logical clue to explain the madness. What they uncovered only deepened the dark, swirling pool of questions. Inside a small notebook, written in neat, deliberate handwriting, was a set of step-by-step instructions. The note read, 1830 ingest capsules. After effect protect metals weight signal mask. This chilling, cold directive suggested a planned, highly calculated, and perhaps scientific event. But who wrote it? And what were the mysterious capsules they were instructed to swallow? The plastic water bottle found next to their bodies was completely empty. The local community was instantly gripped by a deep sense of fear and burning curiosity. Two men had walked up a lonely hill to meet a destination they seemed to have planned with mathematical precision. To understand how these two men ended up on that windy hill, investigators had to retrace their final mysterious hours. Manuel and Miguel left their hometown of Campos dos Goitacazes on August 17th, telling their families they needed to purchase electronic components for their work. They had a substantial amount of cash with them, a detail that initially pointed to a robbery gone wrong. Yet, the money was entirely gone, while their expensive watches and personal belongings were left completely untouched. They boarded a bus to Niterói, arriving in the late afternoon. The weather was turning sour, with heavy, dark, threatening clouds rolling in from the nearby ocean. Witnesses remembered them buying the identical, heavy raincoats from a local shop shortly after arrival. They also stopped at a bar to buy a single bottle of mineral water, keeping a receipt. The waitress at the bar noticed something incredibly strange about Miguel's behavior. He seemed incredibly nervous, constantly checking his watch as if counting down the seconds to a critical, life-altering appointment. Why the rush on a rainy afternoon? Why the intense, silent anxiety that the waitress could feel from across the counter? The timeline shows they reached the foot of Vintim Hill late in the afternoon. A local resident reported seeing them climb up the steep, winding path in the pouring rain. They were walking purposefully despite the treacherous mud and the fading daylight. It was the last time anyone saw them alive. By the time they reached the grassy summit, the sun had set, and the storm was raging fiercely around them. Under the cover of total darkness, they prepared themselves. They put on the heavy, stiff raincoats to shield against the downpour. They lay down on the wet, cold grass side by side. They took out the mysterious, unknown capsules they had brought with them. And then they simply waited. But what exactly were they waiting for in the dark, cold night? The official autopsy failed to solve the riddle of their deaths. Because several days had passed before the bodies were found, the internal organs had decomposed significantly in the humid heat. The toxicology report was completely inconclusive, leaving the chemical nature of the ingested capsules forever shrouded in deep mystery. No obvious, common poison was detected in their vital systems, but the forensic testing technology of the era was severely limited. This lack of concrete answers opened the floodgates for wild, supernatural theories across the nation. In the mid-1960s, Brazil was experiencing a massive wave of UFO sightings and passionate spiritualist movements. Many local citizens believed the two technicians were trying to contact extraterrestrial beings. Vintam Hill was already notorious among locals as a hotspot for strange, unexplained lights in the sky. In fact, on the very night of their deaths, multiple witnesses reported seeing a glowing, orange, saucer-shaped object hovering directly over the hill. Could Miguel and Manuel have been attempting to summon a spacecraft using their electronic knowledge? Proponents of this theory argue the lead masks were meant to protect their eyes from the blinding, radioactive light of a landing alien vehicle. Others suggested they belonged to a secretive, esoteric cult that experimented with psychedelic drugs to achieve higher states of consciousness or astral travel. Perhaps the capsules were powerful hallucinogens, and the signal they waited for was a profound spiritual vision. But if it was a spiritual journey, why did it have to end in their physical death? Did they miscalculate the dosage, or was the lethal outcome the ultimate goal of their bizarre, dangerous experiment? The transition from rational, practical electronics technicians to mystical seekers remains one of the most jarring aspects of this case. While paranormal theories captured the public imagination, police investigators harbored much darker, more grounded suspicions. They began to suspect that a third party was actively involved, a manipulative mastermind who had carefully targeted and manipulated the young men. Manuel and Miguel were known to be highly interested in spiritualism, unseen forces, and scientific anomalies, making them highly vulnerable to charismatic charlatans. Investigators discovered they had previously built a strange, complex device in their backyard workshop, which violently exploded and drew neighbors' attention. This dangerous, chaotic incident proved they were actively experimenting with dangerous, unknown physical forces and spiritual ideas. Could someone have convinced them that a secret formula, combined with the handmade lead masks, would unlock cosmic secrets or even transmutate base metals into gold? The cryptic note specifically mentioned protect metals, which some modern experts link to alchemy or protecting gold teeth from cosmic radiation. If a clever, malicious third person had lured them up this steep hill with promises of a grand, life-changing revelation, that person could have easily poisoned them and stolen the large sum of cash they carried. Interestingly, a highly similar incident had occurred 4 years earlier on a nearby hill in Rio de Janeiro, where another technician was found dead wearing a crude lead mask. His cause of death also completely unsolved. Was there a calculated serial killer targeting vulnerable, scientifically curious men in the region? Or were these young men part of a secret, underground network of amateur scientists taking deadly, irrational risks in pursuit of the impossible? The local police searched extensively for a mysterious companion, a cult leader, or a financial partner, but every single promising lead evaporated into thin air. The ultimate truth behind the lethal capsules, the heavy masks, and the missing money seemed to vanish entirely into the damp, dark soil of Vintam Hill, leaving families with nothing but questions. Today, Vintam Hill is overgrown with wild vegetation, but the mystery of the lead masks remains as chillingly unresolved as it was in 1966. It sits at the perfect, haunting intersection of science, spiritualism, and cold-blooded crime. Were Miguel and Manuel victims of a calculated, cruel murder, Or did they successfully cross over into a realm we cannot possibly comprehend? The handmade lead masks, now resting quietly in a dusty police museum, offer no answers, only a blank, heavy, metallic stare. What do you think really happened on that stormy, fateful night? Tell us your theories in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the unexplained.